Good morning. As always, I'd like to thank Jay Gates for being with us to help interpret this morning. We're going to start with the numbers. As always, we have 154 cases who have tested positive in Hamilton County for COVID-19. We've got 28 hospitalizations, and tragically, for the first time, we're going to report 2 deaths in Hamilton County. So in these briefings, we've talked about the budget, we've talked about 911, we've talked about capacity for medical treatment, we've talked about PPE, and as we've gone through these really important topics, for me personally, it's felt like, okay, it's over there, right? We're getting ready, we're getting prepared, we know what we're doing, but it's over there. Today feels like a gut punch, because we are reporting 2 deaths today. And it feels like a very dramatic shift in what we're dealing with here in Hamilton County. The first patient was a man in his 60s with underlying health conditions. The second was a man in his 50s, also with underlying health conditions. Both acquired COVID-19 through unknown sources, meaning they caught it through community spread, which is what we've been talking about for these few weeks, trying to get people to understand that this disease is spreading and you don't know who's carrying this disease or where it is. I do want to say that these neighbors of ours were dads, they were brothers, they were friends, and they were our neighbors. So I think we need to take a moment and think about it. And I want to take a moment of silence out of respect to the deceased and their families. It is with a heavy heart, on behalf of all of Hamilton County, they extend our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of our neighbors who have died. We are not releasing additional information about them to respect the privacy of their families. I also would like to extend our sympathies and support to all those in Hamilton County and in Ohio and in the country who are battling this illness. Yesterday, we talked about a key civic activity, the census. Today, we are talking about an equally important civic duty, voting. We will, in a minute, turn it over to Gwen McFarland, the chair of the Hamilton County Board of Elections, and Alex Triantafilo, who is also a member of the Hamilton County Board of Elections, to discuss the ongoing election, how and when we vote. As you'll hear, there are some methods of voting that are easier than others, but I'd like again to recognize a great company and a local gem in our community, which is the Kroger Company. In Hamilton County stores, Kroger is now offering ballot applications. This will save a step for Kroger shoppers and is a great public service. And I know Alex is ready to elaborate on what Kroger is doing it and where they are doing it. One other thing I want to note, we did do a walkthrough of the Duke Energy Center yesterday. It was the National Guard, it was the Army Corps of Engineers, it was the county, it was the city, EMA was there, public health was there. And so, again, it's one of those moments in time where you walk into the expanse that is the exhibit space at the Duke Convention Center. And I've never seen that, obviously, without an exhibit set up. And you really can't get the gravity or the vast expanse of it until you see it empty. And so the exercise was to evaluate whether or not that would be an appropriate place for expanded capacity for our hospitals and our hospital systems. And so the idea will be that we set up hundreds of beds in that facility if it's the best in the region for that, and I think we're going to find that it is. The hospitals will have quadrants in that location for their treatment, And these will be from where we are today, and I think the mayor mentioned this yesterday, step-down facilities. So the most acute patients will still be seen and dealt with in the hospitals, but as those individuals begin to recover, they will step down into a facility like the Duke Convention Center so that we can relieve the capacity in the hospitals. And so it's a great collaborative effort between the hospitals, the National Guard, the governor, the Army Corps of Engineers, the city, the county, all of the above, because what we know is that we've got a surge coming in this community and we need to get ready for it. And so that was what the exercise was for yesterday. We've got a little bit of time here. I've heard estimates about the tip of the curve being a few weeks out, but I think both the mayor and I agree that we need to get this up and running as quickly as possible. So I'm very, very grateful to our partners that came down yesterday. And when you walk into the room also with these individuals, you just have a great deal of confidence in what they bring to the table because they've done this before and they have set up these facilities before. And so we are moving in that direction as a community. So before we get to voting, given the news earlier about the neighbors that we've lost due to this virus, I want to remind everyone there are things that we all can do to prevent the spread of the virus. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Stay at home if you can. If you need to go out, practice safe distancing. If you get sick, call your doctor or urgent care. Don't go to the emergency rooms without having called your physician first. And lastly, ask yourself before you go out, is it worth it? And now on to voting. I think it's difficult to remember, given all that we're dealing with, that Ohio is still in the midst of an election, albeit an election like we've never seen before. At the federal and local level, primaries from the president to the county recorder are taking place, with the election formally, technically taking place on April 28th. I say technically because this will be Ohio's first absentee-only election. If you already voted, either in person or by mail, your vote will be counted. Registered voters who didn't already participate in the primary can request an absentee ballot. The process takes some time. We're going to hear about that. But if you haven't voted, it is critical that you start the process as quickly as possible. We don't want anyone to wait till the 11th hour and not have their vote counted. And so today's conversation is to make sure that everybody in our community votes and has their vote counted. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Gwen McFarland. She, again, is the chair of the Hamilton County Board of Elections. And Gwen is joining us by video. There she is. Good morning, Gwen.
Good morning, Commissioner Dreihaus. I would like to first, I'm going to see, do I need to unmute myself? Can you hear me, Denise? Good morning, Commissioner Dreihaus. And I would like to first thank you, Commissioner Dreihaus, for, first of all, thank you, and also thank technology for allowing us to demonstrate clearly that we can still share information and demonstrate how we can stay at home and still get this important information out to our voters and our community about the upcoming primary election and still remain in a safe manner as well. So I am demonstrating what the governor is saying as well. And as you stated, Denise, on April the 25th, which was last Wednesday afternoon, the Ohio General Assembly passed a bill unanimously to look at a date for our primary election, and that is April the 28th. Our Hamilton County Board of Election immediately went into putting together a preliminary action plan. And that action plan was one that really went into place after the governor signed the bill on Friday. And and I have to applaud our staff at the BOE, our board members, everyone doing a great job in trying to put this bill to fruition and provide some clear guidelines regarding how this process is going to look. So basically, they've extended to April the 28th, which is very, very important. And the other thing, too, it's important to know what some of the facts are. If you have any questions, you can call our Board of Election at 632-7000 and or go to our website at hamiltoncounty.gov. And an application can be mailed to you. So this is truly a vote by mail ballot process. And the ballots will be delivered beginning and sent out beginning March the 30th. So bear in mind, we received an official notification to start this on the 27th, and we were ready to send the ballots out beginning March the 30th. And they must be returned to the Board of Election by 7:30 p.m. on April the 28th. Now, I don't want to confuse you. You're going to first request an absentee ballot. You can go online, you can print off the copy yourself. If you cannot print or don't have a printer, then you can call the Board of Election and they will send that information to you. But to expedite the process, if you can, print it off yourself. And Alex, my colleague, will go into some of the details about where some of the ballots are going to be in our community as well. And ballots that are postmarked by April the 27th and received to our board by May the 8th will be counted as an official ballot. Okay, so that's important to know. Turnaround time is quick. And then you mail the ballot. Once you get the ballot, after you've completed your voter registration form, sent it in and it's returned to you, your ballot will be in there. You will complete the ballot, and then you don't have to put a stamp on it because it's already postmarked. Drop it in the mail, or as well, you can drop it in one of our drop-in boxes down at the Board of Election on Smith Road. So that's important to also to be aware of. And voting in person is not a part of the process unless you have a qualifying disability, which may prevent you from being able to complete this process. And that voting in person for those particular individuals is on April the 28th only, from 6:30 in the morning until 7:30 that evening. So one other thing, when you go on our Board of Election web page, you will see a really neat video that only lasts 2 minutes and 33 seconds. That's going to give you a brief overview of the process as well. So again, only voters who are registered in the state of Ohio as of February the 18th, and I want to repeat that again, only voters who are registered in the state of Ohio as of February the 18th, 2020, may vote in this primary election. Okay, so voters may continue to submit registrations and updates and change of address, but their process will not be completed until April the 28th. And it's interesting as well. We already have individuals requesting absentee ballots for the general election in November. So the staff at the Board of Election are doing a great job in trying to make sure that we can get this information out to everyone in a timely manner, that we continue to improve and educate our voters about the process and why it's important to vote in the primary. One of the things that voters have asked me frequently, why is it important that we vote in this primary? And I tell them this: voting in a primary does matter. Your voice and your vote are critical. And absentee ballots are mailed to you, which makes it convenient for you so that you can vote at home. You can sit around the table with your family members with their absentee ballots and vote accordingly. And it gives us all an ability to become more knowledgeable about our local candidates, because that's important, who are running, and to have a voice in selecting those candidates who also may be running in the general election. Now, I know historically, we have always had a low turnout for primary election Because the turnout historically is low, that means that your vote carries much more weight because it's very necessary for you to cast your ballots for your community. Primaries also are on ballot issues. So that's something also to be aware of because this has a great impact on the health and wealth of our community. So the good thing is each time a person votes, it creates a mindset and a habit to vote, begin voting on a regular basis. So it helps you to become more involved, is what I tell everyone, in being a part of a participatory democracy. Try it, and I'm sure you'll find that you like it. So I'd like to just turn it over to my colleague at the Alex Filipino there, and he can also share some of his thoughts and comments as well. Alex?
Well, thank you very much, Gwen, and thank you, Commissioner Dreihaus, for including me today and getting out the important word that you have to vote in this election. A couple of things that Chairman McFarland covered that I would just want to make sure are clear. You must fill out an absentee ballot application. It is a form like this. This absentee ballot application can be found on our website at votehamiltoncounty.org. It can be found at the Ohio Secretary of State's website. It can also be picked up by you at many local Kroger stores. You can check out our website to see the specific locations. To name a few, you can pick it up in Cleves, you can pick it up in Oakley and Price Hill, in Hyde Park, in Delhi. So many of the local Krogers, if not all of them, will eventually have this form that you will need to complete to get your absentee ballot. This is an application. Again, it must be filled out, gotten back to the Board of Elections. Upon receiving this form, you will then receive a ballot. Once you get your ballot mailed to you, you'll vote that ballot, and then you'll have an opportunity to send it back or get it back to the Board of Elections. It must be postmarked by April 27th or received at the Board of Elections. If you choose not to mail it, you can drop it off. It must be received by 7:30 p.m. on April the 28th. This is a mail-in only election. There's not an election day that we're all traditionally used to. To be very clear, nothing about the November election has changed at this point. Let's hope it doesn't. I suspect we're all going to be through this by then. This is only an extension of the primary. One other issue that's come up, many of the forums will talk about voting in the March 17th primary. That's accurate because this is simply an extension of the March 17th election. So our state legislature, in a bipartisan fashion, came together and extended the period for voting, and they say mail in ballot only for the election. So I look forward to your questions. Please visit our website, call our Board of Elections, and I also want to join Chairman McFarland in urging all of you to exercise this important right. We are in this challenging moment really in world history, and exercising this important democratic right is something that makes us all feel normal again. So I hope you'll join me and everyone else in this county in voting in this primary election. Again, thank you very much, Commissioner.
So a big thank you to Gwen and Alex for being here today. I think you're right. It makes us feel normal to vote. And so I think we're all anxious to cast our ballot, to make a difference in the upcoming primary. So thank you both for helping us better understand the timeframes and the process by which we go about casting our ballots. So we're going to go to Q&A in 1 second. I want to note something. At the top, when we went through the numbers, the number for individuals that are hospitalized, that number, I don't know how many of you are kind of paying attention as we go day by day, but that number is a little bit higher than what we've been reporting in the past. The jump is larger. That is because we now have access to countywide numbers for those that have been hospitalized. And so while in Hamilton County, the number is 18, countywide, it's 28. And so I do want to draw that distinction. Remember, we've got Hamilton County Public Health, City Public Health, Norwood, and Springdale have public health departments. And so we are now reporting that as a collective number, just a little bit of clarity. Also, yesterday I was asked about how many have recovered from COVID-19. What a great question, because the answer to that is 24 people have recovered from COVID-19 in Hamilton County, because it reminds us of the work that's going on every day by our hospital workers, our frontline workers, to save lives in this community. And so 24 people having recovered, I think, on a very somber day, gives us a little ray of hope, where we know that people are recovering from COVID-19 with the help of all the people in the medical facilities, all the hospitals, all the frontline workers doing what they do every day. They're stressed, they're strained, but they're saving lives. And so thank you also to them as they continue to do that work. So with that, I think we're ready to go to questions. Bridget?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. The first question is from Jay Hanselman for either chair.
Can you hear me okay? Yes, so. Again, this can go to either Gwen or Alex. I think postcards are to be mailed to registered voters who had not voted before the early voting deadline. Have those postcards been mailed yet, or when will they be mailed?
Thank you, Jay. So let me correct one part of your question. Under the statute that was passed, every single registered voter will get a postcard. That may be a little confusing, but we're just making sure everybody knows about this change in the law. If you've already voted, let's be very clear. If you've already cast a ballot, you need not do anything. Your ballot will be counted and opened on April 28th after 7:30 p.m. and counted like a normal election. So those postcards are actually going out as we speak, Jay, in the next several days. People should be getting them in the next several days as well. It's all coming together. Of course, quite busy there at the board, but those are going out as we speak.
What about results? I know there's always the unofficial count on election night and then the official count. What are those dates now with this new way of voting?
Well, it's certainly going to be different in that it's going to be an all mail-in absentee ballot election. So the results will be counted, we hope quickly on election night, but it certainly will be different. Much depends, frankly, Jay, on when those ballots come in. But I expect results may be a little later than we're used to because it'll be an all-mail election. But on the other hand, I also suspect, unfortunately, that turnout may be a little bit lower. So we will be reporting results as quickly as we can turn them out accurately on the evening of the 28th of April.
And just one final question. March 16th saw a flurry of legal activity that led to confusion about the primary election, and now there's a lawsuit challenging this new election process. Are you at all worried this legal wrangling will cause further confusion and people say, hey, I just give up. It's not worth trying to figure this out?
Perhaps Gwen wants to chime in here as well.
And I'll finish.
So, Jay, I've been on the Board of Elections more than 12 years, and lawsuits are a reality of the operations of the Board of Elections. I have no doubt when this situation began to unfold that we would see litigation. I hope, as part of your question, that people are not turned off to the idea of voting because of this change, and the litigation will unfold, and we'll follow whatever court order comes down from a Board of Elections perspective, but it shouldn't have any impact on people's ability or their interest in voting in this election.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, and I would just like to add to what Alex said, and he is absolutely correct. Yes, there may be some confusion regarding when you can actually vote. I strongly know both Alex and I agree on this. Somebody had to take the initiative and take the first step to minimize a lot of the confusion, especially regarding is there really going to be a primary or not? And we both feel it's important for us to have a primary election and to get this process initiated, started, and completed. Some of the votes that may not count or be able to be counted in the unofficial ballot counting mainly will be those who are coming from overseas as well. So again, we have had this opportunity based on the Ohio Assembly stepping forward and saying, we've got to bring some consistency and some stability to this process, and for stepping in and voting unanimously to make this happen.
Next question is for both of you again. It's from Larry Seward from WCPO.
Seward. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Gwen and Alex. This question, 3 out of 4 voters in Hamilton County, traditionally, according to the Board of Elections, wait until Election Day to cast their ballot. How few do you anticipate being in the total tally with turnout? How much drop-off do you expect? And how is that changing the campaigns and the way your candidates have to approach this primary?
Chairman McFarland, did you want to start?
Can you hear me? Okay. You can hear me now? Okay. I think it's very clear that historically we've always had a low turnout. I anticipate that our turnout may not be as low as it was 2 or 3 years ago. The candidates are preparing to the best of their ability to continue to educate the voters about who they are and what the process is and what their roles and positions are. Uh, I truly believe that we will get through this, and we can only get through this together. I think this is a way to test this as well. But also, Larry, this is an opportunity for individuals to really understand and learn why voting in the primary is very, very important. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to see a better turnout than perhaps we have some years ago. But I'm also optimistic that more people seem to be stepping to the plate and really looking at early voting as a great opportunity to cast their ballots, and not so much depending on waiting until, that you can, until the primary actually gets here.
And Larry, if I can add on, so remember that Ohio has a month of voting for every election. So before March 17th, citizens had 28 days to cast a ballot already. We've added an additional almost month, or more than a month really, for people to cast a ballot. So you'll have 2 months essentially to cast the ballot by mail. Your questions over, will turnout be lower? Again, one of the reasons I'm here and one of the reasons we're pressing this message so thoroughly is to make sure we do drive our turnout up, that people know this is an important right during this crisis. The other question you asked was about the effect on campaigns. As you and many people know, normally I'm in front of you talking about the Republican Party, Gwen McFarland talking about the Democratic Party. There's no question this has had an impact on the way people run their campaigns because they expected to be finished with their primary on March the 17th. So they usually spend their money leading up to that primary date. So it certainly has changed campaigns. But so much else has changed that it seems to me that's relatively minimal. But the fact of the matter is it has, to answer your question directly, it has changed campaigns and the way that candidates are running. I think the good news here, and I think one of the reasons you saw bipartisan agreement in Columbus, is that we wanted this to all end more quickly and get on with the general election. And I think that's why you saw us moving to an April 28th date rather than something more long-term.
As a follow-up, if I can, you all are optimistic, but if turnout is low, what is the I guess the hazard, and sort of going forward to the general election, how does what happens on April 28th change November in any way?
It shouldn't change anything. And one of the reasons, again, we're here is to make sure that people understand that nothing has changed about the November general election. And, we've seen various levels of turnout in various primaries, even when there's not a worldwide health crisis. So I think that, we're going to see the turnout being what it is, but we're going to remind people that they have a month yet to engage this process. And I guess being an optimist, I would say that people are sitting at home, many of them, and they have an opportunity here to listen in here, get on the internet, print their application, and mail it in. I think our lives, many of us, our lives have slowed down some. So I'm going to be optimistic again and suggest that if you've got some extra time, fill in your ballot application and get it into the Board of Elections so we can get you a ballot and you can participate in our democracy.
For both chairs, from Megan Mongello with Local 12.
Good morning. A couple questions. I'm going to start with just kind of telling you my story. I sent in my ballot, well, not ballot, to get a ballot last Thursday, and I've still not received it yet. So, based on my experience, I would think that you would not wait for a few days before the actual election. So, what is the lag time that you're seeing? Is the first question. And the second question is, talk us through the process at the Board of Elections. I would assume you have more people working there to try and process all of these mail-in requests to get the ballots out to folks.
So the lag time is, frankly, I don't know the exact data on that. I know that we, like everyone else, went to a skeleton staff for several days, and we're staffing back up. So the Board of Elections is one of those essential services, I suppose, right now. So we're bringing our people all back in. We're trying to get extras that come in, and we're doing all we can possibly do to turn this around. Megan, the fact of the matter is this is unprecedented. So we're managing as best we can. We have 46 full-time staff to manage an election of 500,000 people. So I can tell you that they're working 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to past 7 o'clock every night, and doing our level best to shrink that lag time and get the ballots turned around that are being sent out. Gwen, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I would like to see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Megan, I agree with what Alex is saying, as well as, our staff they stayed ahead of the whole process. Once the General Assembly made that decision, they immediately put a plan of action into place so that they could work collectively together and, to the best of their ability, minimize that turnaround time. So we were ahead of the game, and I have to commend the staff again. And as Alex said, those who were at home working were pulled in, and because they needed to come in and they wanted to come in to stay ahead of the process and get it going. And I agree. I can't tell you what the lag time is because I've spoken with individuals as well, but you have to look at the fact they started mass mailing and also receiving and working on applications the moment they came in the door. And then once the ballot is mailed out, you can track your ballot. Once it's mailed out back to you, you can go into the Board of Election website, put in your necessary information. It will tell you that your ballot has been mailed to you with the date. And then once you complete the ballot, you mail it in, then you can go back in and track when that ballot actually is received by the Board of Election. So that's, I think, Megan, that gives you some sense of how we and a voter can track their vote, their not absentee ballot, but their ballot that they've actually completed and submitted into the Board of Election.
Can I add in one more thing here, Gwen? I know, again, Gwen and I on opposite sides politically, but very united at this moment for sure. We're going to ask the public to have some level of patience with this process. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event in this world, and I can tell you that our team, led by the two of us, are working overtime, putting themselves at risk by working sometimes in closer quarters than is recommended to make sure we turn around these ballots and we get this election properly in the books. So to the extent that people are frustrated by the process, we haven't heard much that they are, but please, we would just ask you to be a little patient with all of us as we all work together through this crisis.
Another question for both of you from Scott Wortman with The Inquirer.
Good. after April 28th, because they have till receive the ballots. Is it going to be harder to call a lot of races, you think, on April 28th? How difficult is that going to be?
Since I'm here, Gwen, you want me to jump on that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gwen. So, Scott, we are still trying to get an answer to that question. I have said to our team it could either be the fastest results we've ever delivered or the slowest, depending on how many ballots come in, when they come in, and how quickly we can get this process rolling. I also think this. I think that in the coming weeks, you may see some additional guidance coming either from our Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, or even from our legislature, although I doubt that. But you'll see additional guidance that may give us an opportunity to move more quickly on election night. I'm not sure of that, but there is a goal always, Scott, to deliver results as quickly as possible to our citizens so they know the results. But again, this is something different. We've had mail-in voting. People can vote from home for a month before the election, but this is the first time that it's an all mail-in election with very little notice because of this crisis. So your question again is about how quickly the results will come in. I think there's going to be an effort to turn those around as quickly as possible, but it's hard to make a prediction right now from where I sit.
Scott, do you have a follow-up question?
In how we work and how we communicate, this quarantine, social distancing has changed a lot. Teleconferencing, obviously all mail-in election. Do you think there's any lessons from this that may have impact more permanently on our electoral process in future elections? Has it taught you anything or anything that maybe should be looked at to change how elections are conducted? Is there anything that might be permanent as a result of this?
McFarland?
Gwen? Okay. I would just like to state that this, as Alex has said, and we all know, this is an event. This is a crisis. This is something that we have never, ever been involved in before. And we will learn from this. And I'm a big research person. And I'm certain there's a lot of research going on at this particular time to come up with lessons to be learned and looking at what we did well and also areas that we can improve in so that if there should be a situation like this again, we will be able to move swiftly and smoothly through it, just as we're attempting to do today. The educational component is very important. And with what my thoughts are that this will provide a pathway and footprints for us for any future crises that may occur.
Can I also add that this is a good lesson for folks? Lesson's the wrong word. It's a good opportunity to know that you can vote for an entire month in Ohio, and you can vote early. And we encourage people to get their ballot voted early. I vote early in almost every election. You can do it at the Board of Elections for almost 300 hours of early voting. You can do it by mail. This is in every election. So if you're a person who took advantage of that process early and this crisis hit, no worries. So again, it's an opportunity for people to educate themselves about the process and to maybe appreciate the importance of early voting. If you have made your decision about who you want to vote for and how you want to vote on the issues, get your ballot early and get it voted. Now again, are we going to see a crisis like this? Maybe not. But will we see a snowstorm? Will we see something that keeps you from the voting location on election day? Perhaps. So here's a great opportunity to understand this early voting process. So I suppose that would be one takeaway I hope the citizens have in this situation.
Thank you.
The next question is from Jay Hanselman for Chairman Triantafilou.
Alex, you started to touch on this briefly about the social distancing. I know everything at the Board of Elections that I've witnessed, particularly on election night, is a team approach. You have two people, one Democrat, one Republican. So how hard is it to keep that team approach, but then also think about this social distancing?
It's been a challenge, Jay. It's been a real challenge for our team. Um, little known fact, but people at the Board of Elections running up to the general election tend to get sick anyway because they get run down. They're working so hard. It's something that those of us who are around them see year in and year out. People working long days leading up to an election and really following an election. So they're taking extraordinary measures. We had hand sanitizer, by the way, for every polling location in Hamilton County in anticipation of the March 17th deadline. So we've got plenty of hand sanitizer. People are doing their best to keep that distance and to be safe. But on the other hand, what we're doing obviously is an essential service, and getting an election properly administered in the county is very important. So we're taking every single precaution that we can at the board. It's a question I know I've asked our team. Probably Gwen has as well. And even she and I, when we're in meetings, are staying, the required 6 feet apart, as we should be.
Here's to conclude our questions from reporters.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much to both Gwen McFarland, Alex Triantafilo for being here. We're very grateful for the information. Is this a challenging election? Yes, it is. Is this unprecedented? Yes, it is. And so are we going to learn something? Yes, we are. But I think the idea for today was to make sure that everybody in our community knows what they need to do to get the ballot through the mail and cast their ballot in Hamilton County by the deadline. One thing that wasn't touched on, I got online last night to try to understand this better. Gwen, I saw that tracking tab where you can follow the ballot as it comes to you and as it moves back out to the Board of Elections. Is very fancy, very nice. But I think something hit me, it kind of struck me when I was online, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in order to get the ballot, you first have to ask for it. You have to turn in that application. You cannot do that online. By law, you cannot apply for the ballot online. Because I was like trying to click the button to send online. And by law, you're not allowed to do that. It kind of struck me. So I just want to caution people that when they go to the site on the Board of Elections, don't be frustrated that it won't send back to them right away. You have to download it. You have to have a paper copy or make a call, am I right? Or request one by phone. So just want to clarify that. It was my own personal question. I was sure someone would ask it, but thanks for the clarity. So anyways, thank you all. If there are additional questions, the Board of Elections website is very easy to navigate. Thank you for all the employees that are there doing this work. It is an essential service, and I am gratified that they've got the hand sanitizer and practicing social distancing, as we all are. Trying to still provide the essential services of the county, but knowing that this is a challenging time for everybody. So I'm just going to kind of move back to the top and say that, look, we're in a different phase of this crisis. We knew this day would come. We knew that we would lose people in Hamilton County, but it really is a very sobering time to now be in that space. So from my perspective and from my view, and I feel like so many of you share it, it's time to step up and double down on our efforts to try to prevent the spread of this virus to others in this community. So thank you to all of you for all that you are doing to follow the advice of the health commissioner to try to keep people safe in this community. Thank you.